I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Currently, it is elderflower season. That is June. June is elderflower season. Get yourself out there, get picking some elderflowers. They are growing fucking everywhere. You can't stop the growth of them, and there's so much you can do with them. This season, I'm going to be making elderflower cordials, liqueurs, gins, and I've got some ferments. That's what I'm going to talk about today. And guess what? All of this, it's free. No need to be paying for postage and packaging, no deliverables, no companies you've got to sort out. This is elderflower, it's growing out there. So get yourself out there and pick some. And hey, even if you don't do anything with it, it's just a fun day out to go and actually pick the elderflower. So what I have going on here is the ferments. That's how I'm starting my season. I'm making some ferments. We've got this one. This is elderflower mead, a very traditionally British elderflower mead. And this big boy, this is elderflower champagne. I'm going to talk about both of these. They're very similar to make. I'm going to split it up into 2 videos so I can really go into depth with each one. We're going to start in this video talking about the elderflower champagne. So I'm going to give you my full recipe. Don't worry about noting this down. I'm going to put it all in the description. So just in case you get lost along the way, because I'm just going to quickly go through everything. So you're going to start with your water. And now for every litre of water, you are going to add 100 grams of sugar, half a lemon, that's the zest and the juice, 1/4 of a tablespoon of white wine vinegar, and 1 elderflower head. So I have 10 litres of elderflower champagne on the go, which for anyone quick at maths will already know that for 10 litres that is 10 elderflower heads, 5 lemons, the zest and the juice, 2.5 tablespoons of the white wine vinegar, and 1 whole kilogram of sugar. Now when I say champagne, I'm using that word lightly. Technically, it's just elderflower, sparkling elderflower wine, but champagne has a little bit more of a ring to it, you know, it sounds nice. So that's what we're going to go with. That's how we're going to describe it, elderflower champagne. Now what's going to happen is the yeast is going to eat all that sugar. It's going to just gobble it all up and it's going to transform it into 2 things. One of those is gas, CO2. That's what's going to give it the bubbles. The other thing is alcohol, also known as silly juice. When it comes to the sugar, we already know how we're getting that because we're adding actual sugar into it. When it comes to the yeast, things can tend to get, people tend to have more questions, so let me run through that. What a lot of people do is they'll add yeast, and we're going to talk more about that. You can buy yeast from homebrewing shops, but elderflowers are quite wonderful because they have natural yeast all over the flower. If you ever pick one, you'll notice that they have this kind of yellow dust on it, and if you look at your hands afterwards, it's full of yellow dust. All of that is the natural bacteria and natural yeast. So what you can do is you can make wild ferments like this one, a wild fermented organic elderflower champagne. The natural yeast, you're going to wash everything, clean everything except for the elderflowers, and when you add those in, the natural yeast on the elderflowers is going to do its work. It's going to eat all that sugar. It's going to transform this very syrupy flat water into bubbly elderflower tasting champagne, and it smells absolutely delicious. What I've got going on here now smells real nice. But here's the thing, the fermentation takes about 1 or 2 days to get started. If it's really aggressive yeast, really vigorous, you might see it start to bubble and start to work within a couple of hours. However, the problem we've ran into is not fermenting, it's stuck. The fermentation process has not begun. Not a big issue. We're not just going to dump this all out. We're gonna evolve as we go along. We know there's enough sugar in there, so it must be the yeast. That's okay. You can pick yeast up anywhere, don't matter which one you get. I've got this one, this is Lamavin EC1118, which is a champagne yeast. We're just going to add that in. So this is a dry yeast. What we'll do, a cup of water, we add in the dry yeast. This is about 5 grams of yeast, and it's about 50 millilitres of water. It smells like yeast. Anyone who's a baker will know exactly what it smells like. It's like biscuity smell. We're going to stir that in. And all we're trying to do now is wake up the yeast. We don't want to add it right in there because there's so much going on. We want to wake it up first. So by adding it in the water and giving it a stir. So now we've got this biscuity, smelly substance. We're going to leave that for probably, I would say, normally about 20 minutes, just so the yeast kind of blooms and wakes up. And then all we're going to do is add it into the lovely mixture we've got here, and hopefully within another 2 days it'll kickstart that fermentation. Now, even though we're adding the dry yeast, it's still going to be kind of a wild ferment because the yeast, we still have yeast in there, it's just not doing its work yet. Once we add that yeast, it's going to wake up and be like, oh hey, we got new yeast in town, time to get to work. People say, how do you know when it's fermenting? Well, if you've got something like this with the bung on it, that's what this is called, this allows air to come out but stops things going in. You never want to ferment in like a closed container because of all the gas build-up, it'll explode, which is why I have the towel on top. Because if I leave it open, anything can fly in there, any bacteria will get in. So by covering the top with something like a towel, the air gets out but nothing can get in. So we know it's fermenting when this starts bubbling. In the case of this one, we'll be able to see it. All of this should be mouldy at this point, and mould is good. Mould's it's not bad in this situation, it's what we want. It's how we know things are happening. It's how we know bacteria is doing its work. So hopefully after adding this, 2 days, we're going to start to see some mould action going on. That's going to ferment for probably 5 days to 2 weeks. Once it stops bubbling, there's no more action, then we can bottle it up, let it finish the job in bottles, and we'll have that sparkling champagne. Now, there is a lot to add to that process. Let me just get something. For example, we want to know what the alcohol content is after we make it, which is what we have. Well, what we have. We're going to check that with this. This is a hydrometer. You just pour the liquid in there, you balance that in, you measure where it's at, and you can use that to kind of deduct how much sugar's been lost, i.e. how much alcohol has been gained. But I'll speak about that in another video. Currently, we're just talking about the fermentation, how I got started. So you've got that start recipe. You now know how to kickstart the fermentation, in case you need to. And in about 5 days, I'll do another video updating what it looks like as it's fermenting and what we're going to do next. So if you are going to follow this recipe and you're curious to what to do next, check in on my account in like 5 days and there'll be another video, there'll be part 2, where I'll tell you what to do next. The whole process would take about 2 weeks, something like that. And then you can start enjoying the champagne in about a month from now. So this is going to be perfect for summer because elderflower has such a floral taste, which just goes wonderfully with summer, and that's why we're starting it now in June. So by next month, it's ready. That's preparation. We're prepping ourselves for next month. And the reason I'm doing 10 litres is so we can keep it going throughout autumn, throughout winter. When we want to reminisce on summer, we can pop a bottle of elderflower champagne and we can remember what we were doing in summer and that summer flavour. A bit of a longer video today, and by a bit of a longer video, I mean a very much longer video. So let me know what you think of these longer videos, and if you're curious to see the next stage of this, a bit more casual as well, no fancy editing equipment on this one, no fancy camera, just wanted to share an update because it's exciting stuff. Elderflower season. One note, when you do pick your elderflowers, make sure you don't pick all of them, because you know what's going to happen next month? All those elderflowers will turn into elderberries. And then we got more exciting stuff to do with the elderberries. So keep checking in all season long. I'm going to be doing different ferments and different drink recipes of what is seasonal and what's growing and what you can get out there, forage and have fun with. This is what drink is all about. This is the exciting part of it, is just creating something yourself. So stay tuned for my next part.